So picture this. You're looking at a rough-hewn, rustic wooden table.
Okay, setting the scene. I like it.
Yeah, and sitting right in the center of this table is a dense, dark block of dried meat. It's rendered fat, and it's studded with these wild berries.
It's like a really ancient energy bar.
Exactly like that. And resting next to it is a chipped stone tool and this weathered leather pouch.
Very historical, very primal.
Right. But here is the catch. Parked right beside those ancient artifacts, like literally leaning against the wood, is a state-of-the-art carbon fiber road bike.
Oh, wow. That is quite the contrast.
It totally is.
Yeah.
And sitting on the table next to that leather pouch is a sleek, modern GPS cycling computer and a pair of aerodynamic cycling gloves.
Huh, that's wild.
And behind all of this, there's a scenic mountain road just stretching out into the background. And hovering over this whole scene is the title text from the source material we are exploring today, which reads, Episode 2, Fueling Fitness, the Fascinating Science Behind Pemmican.
That visual bridge really captures the entire mission of our deep dive today, honestly.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah, because we're basically taking a 5,000-year-old survival food, which was engineered by Native Americans on the North American plains, and we're breaking down the highly technical, scientific lessons it holds for modern human endurance.
Which is just so cool to think about.
It is, because the biological mechanisms at play here, they apply to you whether you are pushing a bicycle for 50 miles through the mountains or, you are simply trying to manage a demanding mental workflow at the office without experiencing that massive energy crash at 2 in the afternoon.
Oh, man, I know the 2 p.m. crash all too well.
Right, we all do.
So the entry point into this research actually comes from the creator behind the source material we're analyzing today.
Yeah, he has a very interesting background.
He really does. He brings this incredibly specific, a multifaceted man to his own physical engine. First of all, he manages an IT business.
Which carries a massive cognitive load just on its own.
Exactly. Tons of stress, lots of mental energy. But he also plays the alto saxophone.
Which is no joke physically.
No. It demands high-level breath control and a ton of core stabilization. But most importantly for this deep dive, he is a daily road cyclist.
And that changes the whole metabolic equation.
Completely.
Yeah.
Because pushing high mileage on a bike means you are burning through calories at an astronomical rate.
Yeah, the quadriceps and glutes are the largest, most metabolically demanding muscle groups in the human body. So when you use them that much, you need fuel.
Tons of it. And when you maintain that kind of daily caloric burn, your nutritional strategy just has to evolve.
It has to. Our source actually noted his appetite was skyrocketing.
But constantly hungry, right?
Yeah, and the conventional approach to endurance nutrition, which, as you know, relies heavily on processed high-sugar snack and those sticky maltodextrin energy gels, it just started failing him.
I mean, eating nothing but pure sugar syrup on a bike for hours sounds awful for your stomach.
It is. He recognized that constantly spiking his blood sugar was just not a sustainable blueprint for long-term health or, honestly, for stable energy.
He needed a high-quality, biologically appropriate fuel.
Right. And his search for that fuel pulled him far away from the modern sports nutrition laboratories.
Yeah, and pointed him straight back 5,000 years to the North American plains.
Which is such a wild pivot. But if we drop ourselves into that historical environment, the immediate challenge becomes pretty obvious.
Yeah. Surviving a brutal winter out there wasn't just a matter of being a successful hunter.
No, it was fundamentally a problem of biochemical energy storage.
Because when the massive herds of game vanished, or, the winter storms hit, having thousands of calories rotting on the ground did you absolutely no good.
Exactly. Indigenous nations like the Cree and the Lakota, they recognize that fresh meat is a huge logistical liability.
Right, because it's incredibly heavy.
Mostly because it consists of about 75% water, and that water is the precise medium that allows bacterial colonies to thrive.
Which means fresh game spoils within days.
Right. So they developed this really sophisticated intervention to solve the spoilage problem. They created a compound food known in the Cree language as Pemmican.
Which roughly translates to manufactured grease, right?
It does, yeah. And the important thing is they viewed this not as a culinary recipe like baking a cake, but as sheer utilitarian technology.
Okay, let's unpack this because I have an analogy for what they were doing.
Well, let's hear it.
If you look at the mechanics of it, Pemmican is essentially a ZIP file for human nutrition.
A ZIP file. Okay, I'm following.
Yeah, think about modern computing. If you have a massive, unwieldy directory of data, you run it through a compression algorithm.
Right, to make it smaller.
Exactly. The algorithm strips out all the structurally redundant data, shrinking the footprint so you can actually store and transport it without overwhelming your system's memory.
That makes total sense.
The Korean Lakota applied that exact same compression logic to biology. They took massive, heavy, perishable data,
Right.
a fresh meat, and systematically stripped out the dead weight.
Which in this case was the water.
Right. They just zipped the file.
What's fascinating here is the sheer chemical efficacy of that biological compression. I mean, they didn't just dry the meat a little bit.
No, they took it to the extreme.
They sliced lean cuts like bison or elk or deer into paper-thin strips and dehydrated them until the moisture content dropped below 20%.
And 20% is a very specific number scientifically.
It is. By crossing that specific threshold, they fundamentally altered the osmotic pressure of the tissue.
So the bacteria just can't survive.
Exactly. Microbes simply cannot establish cellular function in an environment devoid of water activity.
They just die off.
Yeah. And once the meat was completely desiccated, they pulverized it into this highly fibrous, fine powder.
But the dry powder alone isn't pemmican, is it?
No, it's not. The final critical step was introducing rendered animal fat.
Right. Specifically highly saturated fats like suet or bone marrow.
Yes. They saturated that dry protein powder with this warm liquid fat, which created an impenetrable lipid seal.
Which just locks everything in.
That lipid seal is the true genius of the engineering. By coating every single microscopic protein fiber in rendered fat, they effectively locked out atmospheric oxygen.
So no water and no oxygen.
Exactly. Without oxygen and without water, the two primary vectors for organic degradation are completely eliminated.
Meaning it could last for years.
Decades, potentially. And the resulting compound packed roughly 3,800 calories into a single pound.
Which is just insanely dense.
Yeah.
And that density completely changes the geopolitical landscape of the time.
Oh, absolutely.
We aren't just talking about a few hunters throwing a snack in a bag.
Yeah.
This compound became the foundational currency of the plains.
It was the literal fuel of their economy.
Yeah, the sources detail how the Metis people and other nations built massive trade economies around this fuel. They were producing and transporting up to 1 million pounds of pemmican in a single coordinated hunt.
1 million pounds, that's staggering.
It's unbelievable. Entire continental trade routes, fur trapping expeditions, seasonal migrations, they were all powered by this stabilized matrix of fat and protein.
And that massive macroeconomic capability was only possible because of what pemmican does on a microcellular level.
Right, the actual biology of how it burns in the body.
Exactly. And this is where the historical logistics perfectly intersect with the biological needs of our modern IT manager and daily cyclist.
Bringing it back to the bike.
Yeah, because to understand the advantage of this fuel, we really have to look at the prevailing doctrine in modern sports nutrition.
Which is almost exclusively built around exogenous carbohydrates.
Sugars, basically.
Yeah, the carbohydrate loading model is practically a religion in endurance sports.
It's everywhere.
Go to the starting line of any major marathon or a cycling Grand Fondo, and it is just a sea of athletes tearing open foiled packets of high-fructose corn syrup.
Chewing those sugary gummies.
Right, and relying on that huge pasta dinner they ate the night before. The entire industry is designed around delivering rapid glucose straight to the bloodstream.
Which is a very different mechanism. Pemmican entirely bypasses that system, relying on fat oxidation instead of carbohydrate combustion.
So how does the sugar model fail them?
Well, the biochemical trap of relying on modern sugar gels is the volatility of the insulin response.
The spikes and crashes.
Precisely. When you ingest concentrated glucose mid-ride, your blood sugar spikes dramatically.
Which feels great for like 10 minutes.
Right, because it provides a very rapid, immediate source of ATP, which is the cellular energy currency. But it forces your pancreas to release a massive surge of insulin to clear that glucose from the bloodstream.
And then what happens?
As the insulin does its job, the athlete experiences a precipitous drop in blood sugar. It's known as reactive hypoglycemia.
Oh, that is the dreaded mid-ride bonk. The crash.
That's exactly what it is.
Which basically forces the athlete into this frantic refueling cycle. You have to rip open another gel every 45 minutes just to keep the engine from stalling out.
It's exhausting just to manage the fueling.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because I have to push back on this model on behalf of conventional sports science.
Okay, let's hear the counter-argument.
We are constantly taught that athletes require fast-acting carbohydrates to produce explosive, high-wattage power.
That is the standard advice, yes.
So switching a cyclist from easily digestible sugars to pure, dense fat and powdered meat, I mean, it feels a bit like pouring heavy diesel fuel into a high-revving sports car.
It sounds counterintuitive.
Yeah. Can human cellular biology actually break down and oxidize this dense of a fuel source rapidly enough to sustain intense, breathless, athletic output?
If we connect this to the bigger picture of mitochondrial function, the answer actually lies in the sheer volume of energy that fat provides.
Assuming you can digest it fast enough.
Provided the athlete has undergone the metabolic adaptation to access it efficiently, yes, you are correct that carbohydrates are fast.
Right. Sugar burns quick.
Glycolysis breaks down sugar quickly, yielding about 32 molecules of ATP per glucose molecule.
Okay, 32.
But the human body can only store a very limited amount of glycogen in the liver and skeletal muscle. It's roughly 2,000 calories worth.
So you blow through that reservoir in just a couple hours of intense riding.
Exactly, whereas fat oxidation or lipolysis is a much, much deeper biological well.
How much deeper?
When the body breaks down a single triglyceride molecule from a high-quality fat source, the yield is upwards of 400 molecules of ATP.
Wait, 400 compared to 32?
Over 400, yes. It is a massive, relentless energy payout.
That's insane. So why does fat have this reputation for being slow?
The perceived slowness of fat as a fuel is actually a symptom of the modern diet.
Really?
Yeah. When an athlete constantly supplies exogenous sugar, the resulting insulin actually inhibits lipolysis.
Oh, so the sugar blocks the fat burning.
Exactly. You literally lock away your body's largest energy reserve while simultaneously running out of the small one.
That sounds like a terrible design flaw.
Well, it's a modern dietary flaw. When you remove the constant sugar spikes in fuel with a stabilized fat and protein matrix like Pemmican, you stabilize the insulin response.
So the insulin never spikes, meaning it never crashes.
Precisely. The athlete taps into that massive 400 ATP yield of the triglycerides seamlessly.
And what about the meat powder part?
The protein in the pemmican provides the immediate amino acids required for muscle repair during the effort. Meanwhile, the fat delivers a steady, unrelenting baseline of energy.
So you get energy and recovery at the same time.
Yes. The athlete avoids the frantic, jittery highs and the devastating lows, dramatically extending their endurance timeline.
The tactical advantage of that is just immense. I mean, in cycling, weight is everything.
Every gram counts.
Exactly. Every ounce you carry in your jersey pockets or bolt onto your frame is a penalty on a climb.
So carrying dense food is key.
Right. The ability to carry 3,800 highly stable, slow-burning calories in a tiny package without needing to haul dozens of sticky plastic gel wrappers completely changes how you plan a 100-mile route.
Which brings us to the actual mechanics of sourcing or creating this fuel today.
Because you can't just buy this at the gas station.
No, and transitioning to fat oxidation is only half the battle. As our source material outlines, the chemistry of manufacturing pemmican is incredibly unforgiving.
Oh, so
If you violate the preparation parameters, you don't end up with an ancient superfood. You end up with dangerous, rancid meat.
yeah. Making it requires the precision of a laboratory.
It really does.
You start with lean cuts of meat, like bison, venison, or beef, but the dehydration process has to be absolute.
You can't leave any water behind.
Right. You aren't aiming for the pliable, chewy texture of modern gas station beef jerky.
No, that still has too much moisture.
The meat has to be desiccated until it is completely brittle. The sources emphasize that it must literally snap like a piece of dry glass.
That brittleness is the only physical proof that the water activity has dropped below the threshold capable of supporting microbial life.
Snap it like glass. Got it.
But the engineering of the fat is just as rigorous. You cannot use standard cooking oils or soft fats.
Like olive oil or butter.
No, those will go rancid. The recipe strictly demands rendered, highly saturated fats like suet, which is the hard fat found around the kidneys, or bone marrow.
See, I always assumed rendering fat was this highly industrial chemical process.
Up.
Yeah, the sources break it down as something you can essentially do in a kitchen just by driving out the moisture using very low heat.
The rendering is basically just an exercise in phase separation.
Meaning separating the oil from the junk.
Exactly. You apply a low, steady heat to the raw fat. As it warms, any residual water evaporates out, and the cellular tissue, proteins, and impurities slowly detach and settle to the bottom of the pot.
Leaving the good stuff on top.
Right. You carefully decant the liquid left at the top, which is a pure, clean, golden lipid.
So what does this all mean for the final product?
It's all about the mix.
Right. Think about the crucial moment when you combine that golden liquid with the pulverized meat.
It has to be perfect.
If you've ever worked with two-part epoxy resin for a woodworking or home repair project, you understand that the mixture must be flawless.
Oh, that's a great comparison.
Right. You pour the resin over a surface, and it cures into this beautiful, impenetrable seal.
Assuming you did it right.
Exactly. But if you mix it too fast and leave a single air bubble, or if a single drop of moisture gets trapped underneath that resin layer, the structural integrity of the entire project is compromised.
It starts peeling or rotting.
The void allows air or moisture to begin rotting the material from the inside out. Mixing pemmican is the exact same chemical reality.
That warm lipid must completely permeate and coat every single microscopic fiber of the meat.
A single hidden air pocket introduces oxygen, which initiates lipid peroxidation.
And then the fat goes rancid and the whole batch is ruined.
And this intense vulnerability to moisture brings up a critical warning from the sources regarding modern flavor additives.
People love to tinker with recipes.
They do. Many people attempt to recreate traditional recipes by adding dried berries for a tart flavor profile.
Which is historically accurate, actually.
It is. But if you introduce store-bought, chewy dried fruit into the matrix, you are planting a Trojan horse.
Because commercial dried fruit still retains a significant amount of water to keep it soft and palatable. Any berries added to the mixture must be dried until they are just as hard and brittle as the meat itself.
Otherwise, disaster.
Introducing a soft berry introduces localized moisture, which will destabilize the surrounding fat seal and literally destroy the entire supply.
Which is a huge waste of expensive meat.
This raises an important question for the modern athlete, though, who doesn't have the time or desire to turn their kitchen into a dehydration and rendering facility.
Yeah, I'm not doing that in my apartment.
Most people won't, but there are commercial options available today.
Really? You can just buy it.
You can. There are companies catering specifically to the survivalist and endurance communities by producing traditional pemmican.
Okay, that's convenient.
It is, but you have to heavily scrutinize the ingredient integrity. We have to consider how the fatty acid profiles of modern, conventionally raised, factory-farmed meats differ from the wild game the Cree and Lakota were harvesting.
Oh, right, because the composition of the animal fundamentally changes based on its diet.
You are what you eat, even for cows.
Right. A grain-fed steer standing in a feedlot is going to produce a vastly different ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 fatty acids compared to a wild bison grazing on diverse plains grasses.
Therefore, if you are purchasing commercial pemmican, the sourcing is paramount.
You have to read the labels carefully.
Very carefully. You are looking for brands that explicitly utilize grass-fed beef or wild game to ensure a historically accurate anti-inflammatory fatty acid profile.
And you have to check the macros too, right?
You must verify they maintain the traditional ratios of fat to protein and absolutely ensure there are no modern chemical preservatives or stabilizers.
Because that defeats the whole purpose.
The entire premise of this 5,000-year-old technology is that the preparation method itself is the preservative.
Man, it's just an incredible full circle moment.
It really is a testament to indigenous engineering.
Yeah, an ancient technology born out of the uncompromising necessity of surviving freezing winters on the plains, actually holding the precise biochemical keys to unlocking optimal modern endurance.
And the beauty of this deep dive is how universally applicable it all is.
You don't need to be a daily road cyclist burning thousands of calories on a mountain pass to use this.
Or a high-stress IT manager either.
Right. To deploy these principles, you just have to look at your own life.
The mechanics of insulin stabilization and sustained ATP production apply to every single human metabolism.
Because we all navigate our own daily endurance events.
Whatever that looks like for you.
Right. Maybe it's a grueling 4-hour strategy meeting where you need unbroken cognitive focus.
Or a chaotic weekend managing errands, travel, and family obligations.
Exactly. You can apply the foundational logic of pemmican simply by altering your fueling inputs.
Changing what you snack on.
Yeah. Instead of reaching for the mid-afternoon sugary granola bar or the high-fructose energy gel, you just swap the fuel source.
You reach for high-quality, zero-sugar beef jerky.
Or a handful of raw macadamia nuts.
Or those modern tallow-based protein bites that are getting popular.
Exactly. By removing the exogenous sugar, you literally step off the blood glucose roller coaster.
You stop the insulin spikes and the inevitable crashes.
Providing your brain and your body with a steady, relentless baseline of energy.
Implementing that shift is highly effective, but the source material does provide one final caveat regarding the transition.
It's not an overnight fix, is it?
No. Moving from a lifetime of standard, carbohydrate-heavy modern diets to a system optimized for fat oxidation requires a dedicated period of adaptation.
Your body has to remember how to do it.
The cellular machinery, specifically the mitochondrial density and the enzymes required for lipolysis, it needs time to upregulate.
So you can't just eat a block of dense fat on day one and expect to set a personal record on your next bike ride.
Definitely not. The transition must be tested and scaled incrementally.
Which leaves us with a rather profound concept to mull over as we wrap up today's deep dive.
I love this part. What are we thinking about?
Well, the sources mention this period of adaptation, right? But think about what is actually happening beneath the surface during that window.
It's more than just a diet change.
Far more. When you alter your inputs to mirror these ancient fueling strategies, you aren't just making a dietary choice. You are actively retraining your metabolism at a cellular level.
You're waking up old pathways.
You are literally forcing your body to boot up a biological operating system that has been dormant inside human DNA for centuries.
Suppressed by an endless modern supply of cheap, easily accessible sugars.
Exactly. So if we can endure that adaptation phase and flip the switch that turns our bodies from fragile, constantly depleting sugar burners back into these unstoppable fat-oxidizing engines.
It makes you wonder.
It does. It makes you wonder, what other dormant historical capacities might the human body be waiting to unlock once it's finally given the right fuel?